Hey everybody, welcome to Fantasy R&R. This is your host Ryan, and today's episode is going to be 2021 Fantasy Football Sleeper Picks.
This is Fantasy with Rob and Ryan, Fantasy R&R.
Today I'm going to be doing 10 fantasy sleeper picks, 2 from each position that matters in most standard formats. Going to have 2 QBs, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 defenses. The players I'll be selecting would generally be regarded as fringe picks, somebody you don't have in a keeper league and somebody in a redraft league that you probably wouldn't take until the later rounds.
Jalen Hurts.
And with that, we'll be starting with Jalen Hurts, quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. With the addition of rookie standout wide receiver Devontae Smith and sophomore Jalen Reagor, their wide receiver room is starting to improve, and that'll provide Hurts with some targets to throw to besides a downtrending Zach Ertz and a promising but injury-prone Dallas Goedert, who I believe will finally take over the main job at tight end for the Eagles this year. Add a strong running back committee with the likes of Miles Sanders, Kerryon Johnson, Jordan Howard, and Hurts will be looking primed to possibly strike fantasy gold as a mobile quarterback who could rival the numbers of the biggest stars of the last few seasons. During his time as a starter from weeks 14 to 17 of last year, Hurts averaged 23.9 fantasy points per game in standard PPR format leagues. That's 8th best amongst all quarterbacks. Also, if you take out Week 17 when Hurts didn't even play the full game, he averaged 26.6 fantasy points per game, which trailed only Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I think he's about to blow up this year.
Tua Tagovailoa.
Now we'll move on to another second-year quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins. Now that the trade and draft rumors surrounding Tua and the Dolphins have been put to rest, we're going to see a huge uptick in confidence for Tua as it pertains to fantasy football purposes. He will be the undeniable starter for Miami. Now has his former teammate Jalen Waddle added to a receiving core that includes Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, and Mike Gesicki, and also has a bit of starting experience under his belt as it stands now. If Tua can shed some of the apprehension and low-risk mentality that led to a poor volume of passing yards last season, we might be in for a 3,500-yard season with high touchdown-to-interception ratio that would be great for 2021 fantasy purposes, as Tua is expected to fall late in these drafts. But just be warned, both Hurts and Tua will be unavailable Week 14 when most fantasy playoffs are scheduled due to the extension of the NFL season this year that will see 18 full weeks of regular season football.
Cam Akers.
All right, moving on to the running backs. Cam Akers from the Los Angeles Rams. He was not used the way fantasy managers would have wanted, who were forced to take him at an average of like number 3 overall in rookie dynasty league formats last year, but Akers should be able to make a huge jump this season as he is set to become the workhorse back for the Rams and serve as the engine for their offense behind a newly acquired Matt Stafford, who will use this opportunity to take advantage of a potentially great play-action heavy season. PFF didn't even have Akers on their top 32 running back list, and whether that was by accident or design, keep your eye out on this second-year back from Florida State as he showed flashes of his potential brilliance, recording 272 total yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns in the postseason alone with the Rams last year.
Gus Edwards.
Yep, and now running back Gus Edwards from Baltimore. I know J.K. Dobbins should see the bulk of snaps and work this season for the Baltimore Ravens, but that's why I consider Gus Edwards a great sleeper. Much like the Christian McCaffrey and Mike Davis situation of last year, if Dobbins were to go down with an injury, Gus the Bus Edwards has already proven he has great downhill momentum and strength that can lead to a plethora of red zone scores for the 2021 season. Baltimore obviously liked him enough to bring him back, and even on limited touches, Edwards has managed to break 700 rushing yards each season since 2018, bringing along with it an incredible 5+ yards per carry in each of those campaigns. Keep your eye out on this guy.
Parris Campbell.
Remember this name? Parris Campbell, wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. If you forgot, take notice one last time. This could be Campbell's last chance at avoiding an injury bust label. He's a standout wide receiver from Ohio State. Campbell was drafted in the second round of 2019 by the Colts at 59 overall. However, he was sidetracked by PCL and MCL injuries, while 2020 rookie Michael Pittman and veteran wide receiver T.Y. Hilton took over most of the work with a now-retired Phillip Rivers. And speaking of last chances, enter Carson Wentz to serve as the new starting QB for the Indianapolis Colts this season. There is no better scenario for Campbell than a former number 2 overall pick and possible MVP candidate, coming fresh into the locker room with no tendencies of favoritism in his receiving corps. As a receiver who has averaged over 10 yards per reception in the limited time he had to play, this could finally be the year Campbell breaks out for fantasy owners, and he should be available late in redraft leagues.
Gabriel Davis.
Wide receiver Gabriel Davis from the Buffalo Bills. John Brown has officially made his exit from the Buffalo Bills to the Raiders, and while Stephon Diggs will continue to be the star wide receiver catching missiles from a resurgent Josh Allen, Gabriel Davis will see increased playing time as Cole Beasley continues to fill the slot at a much shorter stature than Gabriel. In fact, what I see Gabriel Davis doing this year could be a lot like what we saw Diggs doing in Minnesota when he was overshadowed by Adam Thielen, and I expect he could potentially put up numbers similar to Bengals sophomore T. Higgins, who had a great 900 yards and 6 TDs last season alongside Tyler Boyd and AJ Green. And once again, Gabriel Davis will be going very late in redraft leagues and could very well be available on most waiver wires in dynasty leagues as it stands right now.
Gerald Everett.
Okay, Gerald Everett. This may be the most speculative sleeper on my list for this episode. He's on the Seahawks now. Will Dissly is going to be back from his injuries and serving as the main starter at tight end on the Seattle offense. Of course, as good as Dissly looked during his best game so far, he just keeps getting injured and dealing with a nasty Achilles issue. And Greg Olson has gone from his one-year stint with the Seahawks, and with Everett fighting for time against Tyler Higbee on his time with the Rams, all it's going to take for Everett to become Russell Wilson's main tight end target is another unfortunate injury for Will Dissly. Of course, we don't wish that on him. Everett was a former first-round pick who still possesses the physical size and ability to become a Jordan Reed-like fantasy force, when Reed is healthy, of course. I would actually take Everett over unproven sophomores like Adam Troutman this year.
Dallas Goedert.
Tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Goedert. I mean, this guy is my prove-it tight end this year. He's probably my prove-it pick on this whole list. I love Goedert, and I think he's the closest thing to a Travis Kelce that we'll see besides rookie Kyle Pitts, who I don't even think qualifies as sleeper status, so that's why he's not on this list. Goedert also had a great start to the 2020 season before being sidelined by a fractured foot, leaving a slow and aging Zach Ertz to remain the tight end one for an inept Wentz and Eagles offense. I long theorized that Ertz's time as the main tight end for Philly was coming to an end, and I'm sorry to all the people that had those 2 great seasons from him, but I think it's finally over. Look for Goedert and his height to physically bully around defenses and become a prime red zone target for the aforementioned Jalen Hurts, who is going to use every weapon at his disposal to prove he should keep the starting job for Philadelphia going forward. I'll be locking Goedert in as a top 5 tight end this year, beating out the likes of Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, and Noah Fant. And obviously, P.S. Drew Lock sucks.
Washington football team.
All right, on to defenses. The Washington football team. I did a video about how I think this is going to be the breakout team. Here's a team you've probably never even thought about when looking for a streaming option, but in fantasy football, top defenses can pop up seemingly out of nowhere because so many of us play in an offense-focused league and rarely rely on our defense to bring us through the season. But much like 2017 Jacksonville, or 2020 Miami, Washington is sitting on the cusp of an elite sack total possibility with Chase Young, Jonathan Allen, and Daron Payne. And now that they put some strength and experience into their secondary by signing Darryl Roberts, they're going to be closer to an easy top 10 defense for the upcoming season. Although they'll have rough games against Buffalo, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, and Kansas City, they're going to see a number of friendly matchups with the Giants twice, the Broncos, Raiders, the Panthers with Sam Darnold, who's turnover friendly, making them a reliable source of points during this season. I love Washington's offense for 2021, and I expect them to force their opponents to take unnecessary risks in order to play catch-up or stay ahead this year.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yes, last but not least, Tampa Bay, returning Super Bowl champions. I'm not sure if this qualifies as a sleeper anymore after last season, but to be honest, nobody around me really took me seriously saying Tampa Bay would be a good defense or team last year because of the strength of schedule issues mostly that Tampa Bay would be going up against in 2020. Well, we can put that to rest, and I assure you that they will do the same thing again this year if you haven't already been convinced by now. This is not going to be like San Francisco where they can't repeat the defensive prowess. Tampa has one of the best defensive lines in the NFL at the moment, and they added some pass defense in the 2021 draft. There is no more Drew Brees for them to worry about anymore, and I think Tampa could easily finish top 3 in total fantasy points for defense and special teams. And they've also got a pretty good quarterback to help keep them off the field as much as possible. And that will do it for my top 10 fantasy sleepers for the 2021 NFL season. This is your host Ryan with Fantasy R&R. I will see you next time.